Hare Krishna. We'll start with our prayers. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtabhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we're going to start the 17th chapter today. Yes, 17th chapter, the divisions of faith. Before we get into the details of the 17th chapter, just wanted to go over this section once more. The whole Jnana section, what's going on, right? So we started with the 13th chapter, where is the seed, right? So there was this verse, Purusha Prakriti Sthoi Bhukte Prakriti Jan Guna Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadasajyona Janmasya. That the seed lies in Bhukte, enjoying tendency. Then what waters that seed is Sattvam, Rajas, Tama, the three modes. And once you water a seed, a plant tree has to come out, so comes out the perverted reflection of the tree. It's an inverse tree, Urdhva Moolam. And water on that extremes of the tree is the demon and demoniac people. Daivi Asura Evacha. But then in the 17th chapter, Arjuna is going to ask, okay, I understand. He wants to know more about people who are in the middle of that tree. No, who are not the extremes. They have some sort of faith. They have some sort of faith, and they follow that faith. So Arjuna wants to know what happens to those people. So this is what the 17th chapter is about. And the 18th chapter is more of a conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita.
The hell? Slow down. Where are you going, stupid?
Okay. So eventually, what does all boil down to? It boils down to our bhukte, it is an enjoying tendency. Originally, so our mind, which is out of control, is what is the source of the misery. As it's said, that Margatasya Surapana Madhe Ruchishchika Tamshakam Tanmadhe Bhuta Sancharo Yadva Tadva Bhavishyati. So a monkey, when a monkey is fickle by nature itself, but then he gets drunk. So when he gets drunk, he's further intoxicated and illusioned, and then he gets stung by a scorpion, and then a ghost enters him. So then his fickleness goes beyond imagination. That's our mind. That's the state of our mind, being so much in an enjoying tendency that it's so distracted that there's no way to bring it back. So that's what Krishna is explaining to us in the whole Bhagavad Gita. How do you control your mind? How do you bring it under your control? And once when it's under your control, we have come onto the mode of goodness, then things become clear for us. So this chapter 17th, the acronym for the chapter is, it's supposed to be 17 there, not 16, is faith. So the first 7 verses, Krishna will talk about faith. So generally, people are often referred to as people of faith, right? That everybody has some faith or the other. Every morning when we go out, we take our car out, we put our faith on traffic lights, we put our faith on other drivers. We go to get some treatment, we put our faith on doctors. We put our faith on banks. We put all our money in the bank. Without faith, we couldn't function in this world. So to have faith means to see some opportunity, a reward, a value in something, even though it may not be immediately experienced. Therefore, according to one's faith, one identifies objects of adoration, reverence, and he begins to worship them in different ways. And then people adopt worldviews, lifestyles, character traits, and so forth. So that's what Krishna is talking about faith. And then there'll be a description about austerities. Yagya, dana, tapa. Ahar, yagya, tapa, and then comes dana. So there are austerities that Krishna will talk about that are in the three different modes. Austerity is very important for us wherever we are. We sacrifice immediate pleasures, comfort for the purpose of a long-term benefit. That's what austerity means. And people who place their faiths in different things perform different austerities in life. And Krishna explains these austerities. And then he explains charity. So the innate quality of a soul of us is to serve. And therefore, there is a charitable disposition in everybody to some extent or the other. And according to one's faith, we make an effort to help others. Krishna then is going to discuss different types of charity. And then last, Krishna will talk about Om Tat Sat. So he'll say that all the activities that I have mentioned to you can be made transcendental by bringing Krishna into the picture. And we'll talk more about Om Tat Sat, what it means. Otherwise, all the activities, even if they're in a mode of goodness, they'll still have some, they'll still yield some karmic reactions. Without in the three modes, we'll always get some karmic reaction, and then we'll be bound, and then we'll have to come back here, either to enjoy or to suffer. So, is there a way out? So, Krishna in the last few verses will tell that Krishna, being the supreme enjoyer, you can introduce Krishna into any such austerity or charity by the three words Om Tat Sat. So if any of the Yagya, Dana, Tapa, Ahar, any of them are dedicated to Krishna or to Supreme, done for his pleasure, for his favor, then they will give us permanent results. So all the activities then become liberating instead of entangling. So that's kind of the summary of the whole chapter. And so, as I said, Krishna will speak about 4 things in different modes. And let me show you this slide. I just wanted to show you another slide quickly. I shared this. So I shared with you the 14th chapter that talks of goodness, passion, and ignorance, about their symptoms, destination. In this chapter, Krishna is going to talk about 5 different things. The way of worship in these 3 different modes, the food items in these 3 modes, sacrifice, austerity, and charity in these 3 modes. So this is just that I wanted to show you this table, what he's going to talk about. Now let's come to our chapter. Any thoughts or comments or questions before we kick off?
Haribol?
Haribol, Prabhu.
Yeah, that thing you just showed, is that somewhere?
Which thing?
That thing that you showed, worship, food, sacrifice, you just showed it. Where's that going to be?
This one, I will post it in the WhatsApp group, Prabhu.
Okay, you will.
I did post for the 14th chapter also when we were doing it. And
yeah.
I'll post a screenshot of this chapter also.
Yeah, because this is pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. As long as I can get it, because I can't write it all down right now, but I'll get it. Thank you.
And Krishna actually goes in the 18th chapter, he talks of many other things in the three modes.
Oh, nice. That's
18th
nice.
Yeah. But we'll come to it when we come to the 18th chapter. Okay. I'll
Okay.
share it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So the first verse where Arjuna is going to start speaking. So he's asking, Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsrajya, Yajante Shraddha Invita, Tesham Nishtha Tuka Krishna, Sattvam Aho Rajastama. If you notice this Shastra Vidhim Utsarje, this phrase, Arjuna is carrying it on from the last verse of the 16th chapter. So if you go up and see that, is Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsarje. So he's using the exact same phrase to ask his question. Right? So Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsarje Vartate Kama Karta Nathas. So here it was being spoken about who completely discard scriptural injunctions and act according to their whims. So now Arjuna is going to ask that Krishna, okay, fine, you said who completely give up, right? What is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? So here there is some faith. They have some sort of faith, these people that Arjuna is asking about now. So, so what is the nature of the faith who reject Shastra but worship with faith? It is ignorance, passion, or goodness. So what is Arjuna asking over here? So if you go back to our metaphor, right, of the tree of the material existence, enjoying mentality being the seed, and then we had those different 16. So this question that Arjuna is asking is talking about people somewhere in between those who are not following the scriptures, and then on the other hand, divine, not motivated by selfish desire. So what happens to the people in between? They have some kind of faith, some non-scriptural faith. What happens to them? And an important word that we have to keep in mind, which is brought out here, is Shraddha. Shraddha. So Shraddha, if you remember in Nectar of Instruction when we read, the first step is Shraddha. Everything begins with Shraddha. So in the 4th chapter also, Krishna said that faithful gets knowledge. Shraddhaval labhate jnanam. That was in the 4th chapter. And then when we take the Nectar of Instruction, comes Shraddha, Nishtha, and so forth. Right. So Prabhupada has, as Prabhupada always does, he translates words in the mood what is being spoken there. For example, Prabhupada in the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, there is a verse which says Tashdhadhana Munyo Jnana Vairagya Yuktai Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam Bhakta Shruta Gritaya. So there the word Shraddha, Prabhupada translates it as inquisitive, seriously inquisitive. So there Prabhupada is translating the word Shraddha, seriously inquisitive. So we can see that faith is also a kind of an inquisitive nature that we have. So we are accepting that there is something beyond this world. So it's not curiosity, it's more of a faith. So curiosity, if you want to differentiate between the word curiosity and faith, curiosity is just an eagerness to learn. But there is no sense that I have to learn it, right? It's like, oh yeah, I just want to see how does a guitar sound, so I'm just playing it out of curiosity, I'm learning. But in the faith, there is some assumption that there is something for me to learn. I'm missing something. So the first level of faith is inquisitiveness. So and the second level of faith is to practice the process to see what is described, whether it's true or not. So that's the next level of it. So we all have walked through this path that, okay, yeah, I was inquisitive, I saw something, and then I practiced it. I started thinking, oh yeah, I don't know whether this will work or not, but let me give it a try. So that's the next level that comes after inquisitive. That's also a kind of faith, second level of faith. But then the faith can be of two kinds, right? Faith can be blind and the faith can be reasonable. Thankfully, what Krishna is teaching us in Bhagavad Gita is a reasonable. He wants us to reason. In the 18th chapter, when Krishna finishes everything, he says that, that now you deliberate and decide. I'm not going to force you to believe what I'm saying. You think about it, and then you do what you want. So then when we start practicing, then anartha nivritti comes in. Unwanted desires gradually become less powerful. So we develop faith in doctors, in a doctor, when the medicine starts working. Then the faith further develops, it becomes nishtha, which is more like conviction. And so very much like if Shraddha is like a banana tree that anyone can come and shake it, nishtha is like a banyan tree. No one can shake it. No, not unshakable. It's not unshakable because somebody has seen Krishna. No, the realization of Krishna has not yet come in nishtha. That comes later in ruchi. But it's because one has experienced the results. You did some of it. You saw some connection. You could feel it. There is something for me there that I realized that there was some realization, right? And this faith can come by many ways to us, and it can come from previous life, from our agyat sukriti, or it can be also given to us by some devotees. If there is some very strong, forceful preaching, and then you might get it from a devotee also. Sometimes that happens also. Many years ago, I was in Denver, Colorado, and there it must have been what, 2011, 10. Kratu Prabhu, he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He was visiting the temple, and he was giving beads and bead bags to everybody in the temple. And I also went and stood in the line. I was just barely a month or two old, but I said, oh, why not something? You're getting something for free. When I reached him, he said to me, how many rounds are you going to chant? He was like very emphatic, very, like asking me strongly. And I said, yeah, I said one. I'll chant one round, I told him. And he said, no, you chant 4 rounds. And it had an impact on me. I started chanting 4 rounds from the next day. So sometimes by forceful preaching from a devotee also, we get faith. Okay? Not that I got faith, but at least I had got that faith to, move ahead with 4 rounds a day. So faith can come in many ways. And faith has 2 characteristics. It's sensible and it's verifiable. Otherwise, if these 2 characteristics don't exist, then it becomes blind faith. For reasonable faith, it has to be sensible, it has to be verifiable. We should be able to verify it. So all of us have some inventory of what gives us faith. We all should practice those things regularly. And what gives us faith will vary from person to person. You might have something else that gives you faith, and I might have something else. And we want to keep treasure of all these things that give us faith. All these spiritual experiences we have found till now should be easily accessible to us. You should write them down, or some resource which is accessible, readily accessible to you. Because surely the ocean is not going to stop hitting waves to our boat. We just have to make the boat stronger. And this is one practical way of making our boat stronger, by making an inventory of all the things that give us faith. And whenever doubt comes, we go back and access those things that give us faith. Don't unnecessarily focus on we should not unnecessarily focus on our weaknesses. Weaknesses will always be there. That's not going to, it's okay. Focus on your strengths. So yes, so that's the word Shraddha is very important. So Arjun is asking about Shraddha. So let's see what Prabhupada is saying. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This doubt of Arjun's is to be cleared by Krishna. Are those who created some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshipping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? What are they doing? Yeah. There is so much of these so-called gurus that pop up in India, and with due respect to all of them, I don't know them, but there's so many people who treat them as God. Like there is a famous guru in Delhi, I know, New Delhi, in India. People practically treat him like God. They offer food to him, they do aarti to him, just like we do to Krishna. They do that. So there is some faith there, but it's not scriptural faith. So that's what Arjuna is asking about here in this chapter. Now Krishna will start answering Arjuna, saying the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Okay, quick question. What are the three ways these modes, how do we pick up these modes? I mentioned three of them. One of them was nature. Can somebody tell me the other two? One of those starts with N, the other one starts with C. See?
Nurturer and creator, right? Nurturer.
Nurture is right, yes. Did I see C? I don't.
Creation. I forgot creator, creation. I forgot.
Nature, nurture, and what was the third one?
The surrounding, right?
Yeah, okay. Environment, I think, yeah. Sorry, I said C, but it's not C, it's probably D, yeah. So yeah.
Culture, you said, right?
Culture, yeah, you're right.
Creator, culture.
Yeah, nature, nurture, and culture.
Yeah, surrounding, right? Yeah.
Thank you. So there are three ways by which so when Krishna says, according to the modes of nature acquired, so this acquired word contains all three of them: nature, nurture, and culture. We can acquire from all of those three ways. And that's what Krishna is going to talk to Arjuna about in this one, right? So the emphasis here is, where was that word? Dehinam so subhavaja. So it becomes a subhava. So the word subhava, according to his, so we know in Hindi subhava means our nature. It becomes our nature, becomes our subhava. And what does it mean? It's that nature. So what it means that the way we think, the way we act, the way we perceive, the way we respond, all that determines our faith. In this world, there is nobody who is faithless. There's nothing like concept of faithless. Faithless, even a person who says that I don't have faith in God, he has faith in that thought that I don't have faith in God. So there's nothing like a concept of faithlessness does not exist. So even an atheist will have his own version of faith. They have faith in the non-existence of God. So everybody has some sort of the other faith. So now Krishna is going to talk about that. Let's see the purport. The association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually. Since the living entity is in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. That's interesting. So one has to, what do we do? I mentioned earlier, Vimrishata-dasheshena yathichhasi tatha kuru. Krishna being the guru there in the Bhagavad Gita, he tells Arjuna, Vimrishata-dasheshena yathichhasi tatha kuru. Vimrishata, deliberate, decide, and then do as you like. So we have to consider things carefully with association, with intelligence, in the association of a spiritual master. So then then we can come out of these modes of nature. We can be liberated from them. And then Prabhupada says, gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness, or from passion to goodness. So Prabhupada has spoken about this in Nectar and earlier in the 16th chapter also, that first of all, our goal should be to come to the mode of goodness. Once we're in the mode of goodness, then the path clears out, what to be done, what not to be done. And then we can even transcend goodness and go to the beyond that. So we will gradually can come out of the modes by associating with the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, abiding by the spiritual master's rules and the scriptures. O son of Bharata, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. It is according to the modes he acquired. So in this verse, Krishna is talking about what a defining role our faith plays in shaping us. So everything about us is largely determined by our faith. Right? We sometimes we can overlook this concept that what role the faith plays in our life. Right? We work for a full month, and then somebody transfers money into our account or gives us a check. So we are putting faith in them, faith in the company. When we fly, we put our faith in the pilot, and all that is reasonable faith. So Krishna is saying that it's according to the modes that we are in, we get a faith accordingly. The original faith that we all have is in Krishna. That's our original transcendental faith in loving and serving him. When I come to this material world, I get covered by a subtle body, I get covered by a gross body, which further shapes my perception and actions. So right now, my faith is situated in my subtle body, my intelligence and my mind. And depending where does my subtle body sit, goodness, passion, or ignorance, accordingly, I'll have that faith. And the good thing is, Prabhupada has told us, this faith can evolve and we can move upwards as we are purified. But then we can also move downwards. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha, madhye tishthanti rajasa, jaganna guna vrittisa, eto, I forgot the last verse. In the 14th chapter, it was, I think, 29th verse, where Krishna says that people who are in a mode of goodness, they go upwards. For people who have passion, they just remain flat, steady where they are. Ignorance, they go downwards. So we can move upwards or downwards according to the faith we have. And let's see, what is Prabhupada saying? Yes, so Prabhupada is saying that the word Shraddha originally comes out of the mode of goodness. But out of some mental concoction, we can put faith in other things. Created God or some demigod. Right? We have mixed, it's mixed, like pure goodness. But then originally we are supposed to be in a state of transcendence. So a concept to understand here is worship of different gods is in I think Prabhupada talks about it. Let me see. Okay. So different gods, faith in different gods can be also different, right? So for example, worship of Vishnu is in a mode of goodness. And worship of Brahma is in passion. And worship of Lord Shiva is supposedly in ignorance. But it's not just these three modes are like black and white. No. Even in somebody who's in a mode of goodness can exhibit qualities of, like further qualities of ignorance and passion. So let's say Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, they all are in a mode of goodness. But then there can be a subsection of their of this nature, which can be Vishnu, it's goodness. In Brahma, it's goodness, passion, and in Lord Shiva, it's goodness, ignorance. In animals, animals generally are in a mode of ignorance. But in the same way, we can say that some animals, even though in a mode of ignorance, but in ignorance, they are in goodness. Right? Ignorance in goodness. Sorry, ignorance, goodness, yes. So cows, for example, they're supposedly in a mode of goodness. We consider it as a mother. But cow is also an animal. So cow is also in a mode of ignorance. Lion is in a mode of ignorance, obviously because an animal, but ignorance, passion. And so monkeys can be ignorance. Monkeys can be ignorance. Yeah. So in one of the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, Yasyatma buddhi punapetri dhatuke swadhi kaltradhishu bhauma ijjat. yat tirthe buddhi shalile karichit Gyaneshu Abhigeshu Sa Eva Gaukhara. So what that verse says, let me see if I can find it. And it's Gokhara. Gokhara means an ass and a cow. So there it's let me see if I can find that verse. It'll be good to. Yes, Yatma Buddhi Kunapeti Dhatu Svadi Kalpadi Shubha. Okay, found the verse, yes. So this is 1084:13, if somebody's keeping track. What it says is that one who identifies his self as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So sometimes this question comes that, oh, if cow is in a mode of goodness, why is it being considered compared to an ass here? So it says that, as I was saying, that even though all the animals are in ignorance, but even in those ignorance, there can be different levels. Some can be very ignorant, so you can consider them ignorant. Some can be ignorant, but they are very passionate, like a lion, animal, so it's ignorant. But a cow is ignorant, but in a mode of goodness. So that's the way to understand it. So what the reason I was bringing it out is because it's not black and white. You know, oh, this is mode of goodness, this is mode of ignorance. So it's not that black and white. There can be some overlapping mode also on that. So yeah. So, but then for devotees, spiritual benefit is never lost wherever we go, whether it's an animal life or a human life or whatever. So yeah, okay. I just want to bring this here. So let's come into the. So men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods, those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts. So this is kind of continuation, as I was explaining, that all these different modes, according to whom do they worship. This is the first part of it, right? So goodness worship demigods, and those in passion they worship the demons, and then those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. So so there is this concept of worship according to what our faith is. There's this mention of Bhuta and Preta here. It says, what was it? Preta and Bhutganam. So Preta and Bhut, so they are, a Bhuta is like a soul with a subtle body, but there's no gross body. Those are ghosts. So Bhuta is ghost. And Pretas, Preta can be somebody like, how to say it, who gets a transition body, right? So everybody becomes a Preta. So when I'm just probably going into some more technical things, but that when Pindadan is performed in India, we perform Pindadan for the people who have left, and that food goes towards making for the next body. But for devotees, it doesn't work, so don't worry. But so then Pretas, they become Pitras, then Pitra after Pindadan. So they go to Pitralok. And when people do average pious activities, they go to Pitralok. Okay. On the other hand, if somebody does very good number of pious activities, they go to Swargalok. If they do very demoniac activities, they go to Narkalok. So it's somewhere in between. So those are pretas who get some transition. So Bhuta pretas are being talked about here. And I think Prabhupada is highlighting that those in goodness, they worship a particular demigod for a particular purpose. Similarly, those who are in a mode of passion worship the demons. And he's saying that in Second World War, a man in Calcutta worshipped Hitler. Similarly, recently, you all must have seen it, somebody in India had a temple, or at least made an idol of Donald Trump, and he would pray to Donald Trump. So that's demoniac nature. And then let's see what is Prabhupada talking about here. Yeah, okay, so Prabhupada is talking about this. He's giving examples of different kinds of worships. Okay, here Prabhupada is saying that the impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. So this is Panchopashna. Some of you must have heard of it. Panchopashna. Panchopashna means they worship 5 gods: Shakti, Surya, Ganesh, Shiva, and Vishnu. Those are in impersonalists, right? So 5 demigods are being taught by Prabhupada here. So Shakti means nature. So they are nature worshippers. Then above nature, some people can understand the concept of energy coming from the sun. So they start worshipping Surya. And then the next level comes Ganesha, who's supervising all the nature and energy. And then comes Shiva, who's the spirit, an eternal spirit, impersonalism. And then to also have Vishnu in the concept, human-like being controlling all of existence. But the problem is that this is all considered as material. They do not consider Vishnu as transcendental. So that's the problem of this impersonalist doing the 5 kind of demigod worship. So, and that's why Prabhupada is saying they're supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, but they are not in the mode of, they're supposed to be. If you worship even these 5 demigods with the right mindset, you can be in a mode of goodness, but their mindset is not in that. Okay. 5 and 6.
Haribol?
Yes, Prabhu.
So I have sort of a question here. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what we're doing here. I mean, it's called the divisions of faith.
Yeah.
So what is, I mean, I've been into this so long, I don't even consider, like you said, I sort of dismiss faith. I'm not really trying to analyze it. So now you're trying to show me some faith here in this chapter. And so what is the perspective? What are we trying to do here? What do you feel like I'm supposed to be experiencing as we're going here? What is Arjuna trying to bring out? What is Krishna trying to show us? Because obviously this is important for us. If we want to communicate with someone, we should know where they're at. You always should, the doctor has to talk to the patient. The more the patient says what he thinks and does and everything, then you can analyze and help him. Similarly, when we're out there speaking to someone, or you start a relationship in a namahata or whatever, you ask him, well, what do you think? Or where are you? Somehow you try to analyze or get them to share their position, and you can say, okay, he's here, there, or wherever. So what are we doing here? Can you just give me a perspective of so that I can sort of get some sense out of it as we go here? Is that fair?
So I think, as I mentioned, right? So 16th chapter was extremes, demoniac and divine. They are like the extremes of the tree. Arjun wants to understand, because there are a lot of people who are in between, who have some faith. The faith might be, or it's not scriptural faith, but they have some faith. When they say they have some faith, means they have this thought that, oh, there is something beyond this world who's controlling this whole creation. So they have this concept, which is itself a good thing, right? I'm not arrogant thinking that, Ishwaro aham bhogi siddham balvan sukhi. That came to the 16th chapter, 15th verse, that I am God, I'm the most strongest, I'm the best. That concept is not there. But then still they are not fully Krishna conscious, they're not fully scriptural, following the scriptures. But they have some form of the faith. So that's the question that Arjun is asking. And what Krishna's essential answer is that we have to then look at the three modes of material nature and how the person is situated within the three modes. So that's the way to understand all these other people, that we have to look at the three modes and where do they fit into those three modes. And that's why he's giving some behavioral characteristics for which mode the person is situated. Did that make sense, bro?
Yeah, I'm just, yep. You painted the picture. It's just, it's a new type of subject matter that we're moving into, that I'm moving into, and I'm just trying to capture what's really going on here. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read it and look at it more as we go now. I'm just trying to keep up with the idea, and
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So if we just quickly look at the 5-6 verses we have read, just quickly look at the translation. So first was the question by Arjun, that what happens to those people who are in middle, who have sought. And Krishna starts by giving some introduction, saying that, hey, it's all about the faith. Where do they place their faith? You know, yeah, they might not be demoniac or completely divine. Divine means they're transcendental, okay. And they're demoniac means they just don't accept any authority, and they think that they are perfect, they know everything. So that's the demoniac. But there are a lot of people in between. So what you should do, Arjun, is look at them. Where do they stand? Where does their faith stand? Is it ignorance, passion, goodness? Where is it? So then you can understand that where they are on that so-called tree, the metaphorical tree which Krishna introduced in the 15th chapter, right? And then Krishna is further explaining that how does that faith come? It depends on, he's saying, one's existence under the various modes of nature. If I continue to stay with people who are ignorant, I will eventually develop an ignorant faith. That's what's going to happen. So means I will acquire modes. It could be like, for example, Prahlad Maharaj, he was born to a demon. But then when he was in the womb, he acquired mode of goodness by hearing to Narad Muni. So he developed that particular kind of faith by hearing to a spiritual master. So he acquired the mode of goodness, and similarly his faith became in that mode itself. So when you see somebody, you know, on the road and they're high on drugs or something, and it's just, you can see that where do they stand in their particular faith. That's highly ignorant. It's pure ignorance there. So that was this. And then if you look at then Krishna is saying, okay, you know, these guys, but then, okay, so that was up to verse 3, where Krishna is just giving more about faith. And then he talks about worship, that these men who are in goodness, they worship demigods, and some worship demons, and they worship ghosts and spirits. So he's now telling us, so he's going to give us these 4 ways. 5 ways by which you can identify people in which mode do they stand. First is worship, then he'll talk of food, then he'll talk of austerity, this is yajna, sacrifice, austerity, and charity. Those 5 we will talk about to give us more clarity on how to identify people in different modes. So that's what Krishna is doing here. Yes, Achyut Radhe Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question that somewhere we read that to attain the devotion of the Lord, we have to come to the platform of goodness first. So here we see that in order to come to the platform of goodness, the person is worshiping demigods, right? And we are actually not demigod worshippers. So, and we also know that we technically do not have all those, really do have that goodness within us. We have all the 3 modes mixed up.
Mhm.
So in that situation, what is our position here?
You're saying that in us, all the three modes are mixed up. So what is our position?
I'm saying that here it is mentioned that you have to come to the platform of goodness, and then we seek the devotion of demigods here, but we are not demigod worshipper. We
Mhm.
are worshiping the Lord directly,
Mhm.
but still we have all those three modes.
Hmm.
So are we consider, what is our position exactly in that situation? Are we the transcendentalists, or we are, I don't know where, on what platform we are?
We are not transcendental as of yet, but the process we have adopted is transcendental. Bhakti can also be in different modes: passion, ignorance, and goodness. But the process of bhakti by itself is transcendental. What you are doing here, what you're doing here is that you're developing your faith. You're putting in serious conscious efforts to bring your faith to a level of transcendence by worshipping the Supreme, by following the process given by a spiritual master, and by following the scriptures.
Hmm.
So we are not in transcendence as of yet.
Mm.
And when you talk of the other three modes, these three modes are present in everybody all the time. The thing is that people who are transcendental, even they have negative thoughts. It's not as if ignorant thoughts don't come to their mind, but they don't accept or act on those thoughts.
Mhm.
So they have controlled their mind.
Mhm.
So these three will be always there. If you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, the four Kumaras, they
Mhm.
are highly elevated souls, and they reach Vaikuntha, and there they get angry.
Mhm.
They get angry on Jay and Vijay, that how dare you stop us.
Mhm.
So even a person who's at such a level of such a level of austerity they have done, and they have controlled their senses, they're not even growing up beyond 5 years of age, even they have that mode that showed up in them.
Mhm.
So, but then Vishnu comes and meets them. So it doesn't mean that as long as we are sincere in our effort to put ourselves on a transcendental platform, Krishna always reciprocates. He knows that we are imperfect. Our imperfection is not the problem. The problem comes when I don't become, it's not, I'm not sincere. That's the problem. Imperfection is okay, but sincerity is demanded by Krishna, is asking for that. So when you become serious, when you are sincerely putting your efforts in coming to the transcendental level, then Krishna starts to interfere in your life. Then he pulls you out of those three modes. Daivi Haisha Gunamai Mam Maya Durattai, 7th chapter, Krishna says. You cannot overcome these modes by yourself. Daivi Haisha Gunamai, Daivi, it's my divine energy. Daivi Haisha Gunamai Mam Maya Durattai. Mamiva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarat. Whoever worships me can come out of these three modes. So technically, Krishna can pull us out of those three modes.
Mhm. Yeah,
So-
then another related question is that here it is mentioned that those in the mode of passion worship demons, and elsewhere we have read that
I lost you. Did I lose you? I can't hear you, Mataji. Can anybody hear me? Is it me or is it Mataji? Hare Krishna. Can anybody hear me? Sorry, Mataji. I lost. I dropped off for a minute for some reason. Can you please repeat your second question when you were saying that it leads to another question? I lost you there.
Yeah, the second question was about that. It is said that when a person is in more of passion, he gets birth in this, in between the earthly planet as a human being. So would a worshipper of a demon is entitled to get a human birth? Because a human birth is considered rare. So my question is regarding this, why so?
Yeah, so you're saying your question is that can people who are in the mode of passion be born on this planet Earth? Right?
Yeah, because the people in mode of goodness, they go to higher planets. That's what we have read. And those in the mode of passion, they come to the earthly planets. And those in the mode of ignorance go to the hellish planets. That's what we have learned previously. So here, when you mention that they are the worship of the demons, how come they get, this?
So the word here, demons, it doesn't actually like not demoniac people. It's more of, like, for example, Prabhupada is giving here that he's saying that they think that anyone can be worshipped as God and that the same result will be obtained. So he gives an example of somebody who worshipped Hitler and had amassed a large. Similarly, so those in the mode of passion ignorance generally select a powerful man to be God. So it's they have some sort of faith. So it's the basic concept here is that all these people, they have some amount of faith in them. There is some faith, some Shraddha exists in them already. But as of yet, they have not figured out what is the right place to put my faith in. And they have been randomly putting in different places. Just like a child, you give him you have those toys, right? Different shapes, you have to put in different shapes. The child tries to put a circle in a square probably, or a triangle in a square or circle. He has that, the child will have an inclination to put that in the right place, but still that his intelligence has not. So Krishna does not reject such people outright. In comparison to the people whom we read about in the 16th chapter, who are completely off the chart, because they say, oh, no God, this whole world is about sex and lust. I am God, I am everything. That's a complete, they have no concept of faith. They just think that they are all in all, this body is all in all, for me to enjoy is all in all. So that's to understand. So when they say demons, Prabhupada explains in further in this here that they generally select a powerful man to be God. So they have some faith, but they have not yet figured out where to place that. That's what it means broadly.
Okay. So because that word demon kind of.
Yeah. So no, I understand your point. And even, these yaksha and rakshasas, right? So so we have Bhu, Bhuvar, and Swargalok. So the Bhuvar Lok is where these yakshas and rakshasas live. So they're on a slightly higher level than Earth also, earthly planets.
Okay.
So it's not. So what I'm trying to say is that demons, don't compare the word demon here to the people who were spoken about in the last chapter, 16th chapter, as demoniac. They're different.
Oh, yeah. That's what confused me, because demonic characteristics and divine characteristics, and here we are worshipping, in more of passion, the demon. So I was confused. How can, they have a better birth? So that's what was.
And then another thing to understand is when Krishna says they are born on this planet, Krishna does not say that when in the 14th verse, chapter verse I was referring to, Urdhvam Gachanti Satvastha Madhya Tishtanti Rajasa. When Krishna says people who have passion, they stay on this Bhu Loka. That doesn't mean that they all become human beings. They can become animals also.
Oh, right?
Yeah. So just to understand that when Krishna says that they remain on this planetary system, doesn't mean they all become human beings. So that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So it's not
Good
just
point.
that. It's not just about that everybody who comes on this planet will come as a human.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for clarifying that confusion. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone before we go back? Nothing. Okay, so let's go. The fifth. So this is done. Okay. The fifth and sixth verse. This is an interesting verse. We'll read a bit of the purport also. Let's see. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances, not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. So now here Krishna is bringing out a very important point. They are doing austerities, they are doing penances, but they are not doing the ones that are recommended in the scripture. And Prabhupada brings out an important point here. For instance, fasting for some ulterior purpose, such as to promote a purely political end, is not mentioned in the scriptural directions. The scriptures recommend fasting for spiritual advancement, not for some political end or social purpose. Persons who take to such austerities are, according to Bhagavad Gita, certainly demoniac. Their acts are against the scriptural injunctions and are not beneficial for the people in general. So in today's world, in at least in India, it's very common for fasting. People go to fasting politicians, and Prabhupada is just very bluntly telling here that no, that's not the way to. That's completely demoniac. Fasting as an austerity is only for spiritual growth, not for any other purpose. That's important. I just want to highlight that. It's something very important Prabhupada has brought out. And Prabhupada would talk about it quite often, that how many politicians, famous politicians have used it. Yeah, so that's here. So Arjun's question was, those who have faith but not in the scriptures, right? And then Krishna says that they can understand them based on their faith. Right? So here, what is being talked about is self-torture, people who torture themselves. So what does that mean? If there is no positive purpose for that self-torture, if it is not meant for spiritual realization, it's not for self-transcendence, then it's demoniac, as Prabhupada is telling us. It's not good for the person who's doing it. It's ashastra bhitam ghoram. So when a person is not following the shastra and acts in a way that is harmful to others, then such sacrifice is not good. It's actually unfortunate. And these kind of sacrifices, they backfire because it's not leading to any spiritual development. It actually leads to entanglement. It makes people more self-centered. So, yeah. Okay, so
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have a question about this. So, like about political leaders in the past, right? During when they fought for the independence of the country, right? Like Mahatma Gandhi, he did fasting in number of occasions to show the protection against the Britishers, or when the partition was happening. That was for a social cause, right? For humanity. So how will we consider that type of fasting when it was for the good of the people? It was not his selfish fasting to get some sort of power or anything. So will that be also called as a demoniac? That act of
You brought up Mahatma Gandhi's name. Prabhupada has specifically said that Mahatma Gandhi, this is referring him itself here.
Oh, is it?
Yes, Prabhupada, and he's not speaking it here, but at some other instances, Prabhupada has even named him, that he's just fasting for his political gain. It might seem, to us, it might seem that it was very noble what he was doing, but there was some political agenda behind it for sure. It was not purely for people's benefit. If it was purely for people's benefit, he wouldn't have accepted the partition. Millions of people died in partition.
Yeah.
So who pays for that? If you try to go back to the concept of karma, who pays for the death of those millions of people who had nothing to do some Britishers stood up one morning and drew a line on a piece of paper and said, oh, this one goes to Pakistan, this one remains with India. But because of that one thing done on a piece of paper, millions of people died. But so who's at fault? The one who drew the line or the one who accepted that decision? Who's supposed to be at fault, if you see from a karma perspective? Mahatma Gandhi.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I beg to differ here. According to the historical record, it wasn't Gandhi who accepted the partition. He was very much like sad, and he even said that partition will happen on his death. This thing, and then when Nehru forced this, then he simply left and remained in Calcutta. He was not happy with that partition. Actually, he did not accept it. Actually, that is the historical record. It wasn't. It was the Nehru.
I agree with you. I think we might be getting off topic here, but just I'll finish by saying, walking away does not absolve you from your karma. Okay, if India was standing at a position where the partition was happening, Mahatma Gandhi had some role to play to bring India to that brink, right? Yeah, at the last moment he just walked away. I understand that. I agree all that, and I'm not. This is not a political discussion, but if you go back to the concept of karma, if you say that there was no karma involved for him, for all the millions of deaths, I mean, I don't agree with that. There was some karma that he has to take for it. Even if he walked away, his walking away, if he would have stood there, if I agree with what you are saying, I'm not a historian by myself. If he would have stood in this position and said, no, this partition won't happen, then it could have been that today the two countries, we wouldn't have partition. But just because of him walking away, gave an opportunity for others to, cash on their own political gains. So even there, karma is involved for him. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going into the history, whatever it may be, but here the topic is primarily fasting, and Prabhupada is referring to the fasting for political ends is not appropriate.
Haribol?
Haribol, Prabhu.
Yeah, if you just step back for a minute, I mean, sometimes you can look at the mood of Gandhi. He was some type of a personalist, but whatever level you're thinking of people, or whatever mood you might try to act, which might be nice, it might be nice when you see it. Like, if we say, oh, well, even in our movement, if we try to be ecologist and worry about the trees and this, we lose. It somewhat becomes an obstacle or a distraction to really the ultimate realization, is that your link in your actions, your mood, your sentiments should only be based on one perspective, and that is the perspective coming from the spiritual understanding of the spiritual master and Krishna. Krishna has a perspective that one has to have if they want to be spiritualized. Otherwise, it is a certain level of label that you will get. And if it's still a distraction or an obstacle, because the ultimate goal is not Krishna, and the Krishna is not the meaning of this political end. If this whole situation of fasting is not based on that foundation, then we have to watch out, because that's not what we are. We're not ecologists. We're not political people either. We're not tripping on what part of the country it is or not. I don't care. Who cares? If you say I'm part of this family, I'm part of this country, I'm part of any of this, that's really the illusion, and that's not really what we are. I mean, the whole mood is what is the ultimate understanding there? That man standing on his toes for thousands of years, what's the result? He got some reactions in heavy, but what is the ultimate result? There's something even heavier than that, and the point of existence and politically here, and these social activities, there's sometimes that's a stream of compassion or humility, but we have to have the ultimate perspective there. You know, you have to run to the race to the chase. You know, race to what's the point? Okay, what's the sense behind it all? And we can come, we really great orators, and we demonstrate something with our compassion of our activities of our body. But if it doesn't have Krishna as the center, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't. None of it matters. And Prabhupada puts it right where it is. It's certainly demonic. And demonic sometimes, I don't see demonic as bad as Hiranyakasipu, but any level that goes towards a different shade of reality or purity, it has, you enter that level, then if Prabhupada says that level of shade of existence is demonic, then that's okay. You know, because sometimes it you know, when I hear that word demonic, boy, it sort of makes me shudder, because but there's different levels of ignorance, isn't it?
Yes, that's true. Yes. So here the word that Krishna is using, it's not the demons that he talked about in the 16th chapter. Yeah, you're right, bro. Okay, and Shalini Mati, your question, I'm not sure if we answered it or did we move away from it, or
No, Prabhuji, you did answer. I
you
did
got
get
it? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I did hear, I did listen one of few of the lectures of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, definitely he has commented about Mahatma Gandhi on a few of them. So yeah, I do remember that piece too. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu, for connecting the dots. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, and it's not, once again, you know, we are not here, we are not politicians, we are not here to, you know, start fighting with each other. Oh, no, Mahatma Gandhi was good or bad. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All this is material. Whether man went to the moon or did not go to the moon, it doesn't matter. That is why Prabhupada was very strong with his disciples. He told them, no, man didn't go to the moon. Some would fight with him. No, man went to the moon. You know, you can see the flag of America up there, and so on and so forth. Prabhupada's goal was very, very different. He wanted to pull people out of that I'm an American, I'm an Indian mentality. He wanted to make them spiritual. For a spiritual person, it doesn't matter whether you're an Indian or American, whether you went to the moon or whether you fasted for the independence of your country, you are a big politician, whatever you may be, it doesn't matter. Down deep, we all are a soul. And that was Prabhupada's goal. So some statements that Prabhupada makes might seem extreme, but if you look at the intention behind it, it was completely pure. To pull us out of this illusion that we have. You know, going back to the verse I was showing you earlier, which was that 10:84:13. Was that? Let me see. Yeah, right. That's what the word said. Verse said, "Jasyatma buddhi kunape driha, swadhi kaltaradishu bahomajya." So if somebody starts thinking that the land of my birth is worshipable, or there is, you know, or my family is my own permanently, nobody else, or this body is mine, all that is just an illusion. And Bhagavatam is calling that person a cow or an ass. So it doesn't matter what somebody did or what was it, or what example Prabhupada is giving. His goal is to tell us, till the time you're just going to be thinking yourself on the material platform, we are no better than an animal. So we have to pull ourselves out of that. So that's Prabhupada's goal here. Okay. Okay, from 7th verse on, on 7th verse, Krishna is giving the 4 things he's going to talk about: sacrifice, austerity, charity, and food. Ahara. These are the 4 things he's going to give us in the according to the different modes. Okay? So why is Krishna talking about these 4 specific characteristics? Ahara, yajna, dana, tapa. So obviously, you know, some of them are very crucial to our Vedic culture, right? Dana and tapa, austerity and charity. They are very critical. They're very central to our culture. Very important activities. Right? And actually, Krishna, when we read the next chapter, Krishna says that even great souls don't give up these activities. Yajna, dana, tapa, they don't give them up. And so these are very glorious activities, yajna, dana, and tapa. Right? So he's essentially, when he's talking about these all, he's talking about the ways in which the faith within the heart is expressed. And when we do these activities, yajna, dana, tapa, we are not gaining anything tangible through these activities. There's nothing tangibly visible. Right? So this activity involves certain kind of faith. And to understand that how does the consciousness that who I am interacts with the matter? So these are the ways, yajna, dana, tapa, and ahar. These are the ways by which the consciousness, that is me, is interacting with matter. Right? So the basic interaction between matter and consciousness is food. So which kind of food we consume is defined by how modes are affecting me. So when we eat something, eating is for enjoyment and nourishment. What kind of food will give me enjoyment will vary from person to person. You might like some other food, I might like some other. What gives us nourishment is generally standard, proteins and carbo, whatever it may be. So the enjoyment part of the food is what is defined by our faith, our nature. So eating food is one primary interaction the soul has with this body. So that is why food is very important. So that's why food is being talked about. And when you talk about the other three things, yajna, dana, and tapa, which Krishna is talking about, so how do we interact with this world? Our interaction with this world is on three levels. So one is the soul interacting with this body and mind. Okay. Then the soul interacting with this social environment around it. And then the soul interacting with this universe, with the controllers and with this also. So there is a physical, which is on a bodily platform, a social, and a universal, a kind of a cosmic connection that we have. Right? So if you remember, I talked about three different kinds of miseries: adhyatmic, adhi-bhautik, and adhi-daivik. The same three phrases you can use for the interaction also. Adhyatmic means how the soul interacts with the body and mind. Right? Adhi-bhautik means how the soul interacts with the other living entities, the society around me. And adhi-daivik means how does it interact with the cosmic entities. So these are the ways the soul interacts. Right? So now when we look at these three things, for the adhyatma, for this body, right, we are doing austerity. So adhyatma is austerity. Bhautik, the society around me, is dana, is charity. Okay. So for the society we are living in, we do some charity. We take and give. That's the way the society runs. Whatever our situation is, we are supposed to contribute. So we contribute in some form or the other. So that's what dana is about. Dana means charity. And as I said, for my body, tapa, austerity is important. And then yajna. Yajna means sacrificing, adhi-daivik. For the higher realities, nature, we do yajna. But all of this depends on what my intention is. Am I doing it for my own enjoyment and domination? No. Then it's nothing more than it is just a useless labor. Shushrushoshadhadanasya vasudeva katharuchi na utpade yaviratim shrama evahi kevalam. First canto, second chapter, there's this verse. That until that faith, shushrushoshadhadanasya vasudeva katharuchi, it doesn't increase our desire to listen about Vasudeva. Shrama evahi kevalam. So shrama is just pure shrama. It's just hard labor, like a donkey. So all these activities, when are done with the right intention, but here it's about modes, but when towards the end of the chapter we'll discuss that what's the right way to do these activities. Right? So there are different levels, and that is why these four things are being talked about. So was that clear? Yes, Atil Veli. Yes, Madhuri, go ahead. You're on mute. Okay. Beli Mataji is not speaking. Okay, so is it okay with all the four things why Krishna is specifically about talking about these? Food, enjoying food is the primary interaction soul has with this body. The body-mind circle, for that we do tapa. For our society, in interaction with the society, me as a soul interacting with the society, we do dan, charity. And for me interacting with the higher nature, with demigod and so forth, I do yajna. That is why these four activities are important. That is why Krishna brings out these four activities to speak about. All good here, everyone?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So these four things Krishna will talk about. So he'll talk about food, and I don't think these three have purport. Or I think, oh yeah, Prabhupada in the 10th purport of the 10th one, he'll talk about all three. So let's go through three of them, and then we can discuss them in detail. So Krishna is now going to talk about food. Food, dear to those in the mode of goodness, increases the duration of life, purify one's existence, and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. And then the last one, foods prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. Food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the modes of darkness. So these are the three kinds of foods. Let's look at them. So food in the mode of goodness is Ayu, Sattva, Bal, Arogya. Right? So it increases our Ayu, Sattva, strength, and so that's what I think, strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Duration of life, increases the duration of life. So that's being talked about here. What goes inside us, it affects us. So in whatever way we interact with matter affects our shape and perception, right? So, but then here goodness is being talked about, but beyond goodness is transcendence. Therefore, prasadam is the best. So we have our duty to take care of this body, right? Therefore, the maintaining of this body is our duty. And that's why Prabhupada, according to Ayurveda, Prabhupada used to say that you should fill up 50% of your stomach, and the remaining 20, and then remaining 25, you should fill up with water, so that you can let the digestion properly happen. So sattva, being in sattva, is very good. So Prabhupada is translating, is saying that sattva is saying that food that can increase one's life purifies one's existence. Right? So what goes inside us affects us inside. It's not just physical, it's emotional and spiritual also. So whatever way we interact with matter, the interaction has its effects, and it shapes our perception. So yes, so that's the food in the mode of goodness. But then going back to when we cook food for Krishna with love and devotional disposition, that helps in our bhakti. Mahaprabhu used to say we should not eat food from materialistic people also. Vishaya anya khaile, malina hai mana, malina mane khaile, na kare Krishna smarana. When we eat food offered by a materialistic person, our mind becomes contaminated. So we should not eat food cooked by dharmis. Right? They should, because you put your heart into what you are cooking. That is why when we are cooking for Krishna, we try to think about Krishna. So, but in the mode of goodness also, Krishna is saying it's purifying. Saying it gives strength, it purifies one's existence. So it's helpful in. So in mode of goodness, we are not getting any further contamination. Right? So we are getting more and more in the mode of goodness. But higher than goodness is transcendent. So when we offer prasadam to Krishna, that's the best way. So yes, then the next one, then Krishna is talking about food that is bitter, pungent. Right? Okay. It's excess. Whenever there is excess of any of these things that are being mentioned, it's too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and so forth, then it causes some discomfort to us. So food is meant for just nutrition and satisfaction. But if we bombard our tongues, our senses, with too much sensation, that is too much stimulating, which our tongue is not meant to take in. It leads to distress, lamentation, and disease. So, you all must have, when some of you have eaten green chili, the spicy green chili, and then suddenly my eyes are watering, and so it has some effect. It leads to distress. We become so disease can happen because of infection or bodily weakness or something. So that's how disease can also be caused. Many a times, we eat something very spicy, our stomach, we get a stomach upset. That's kind of a disease. Sometimes when you eat food outside on the road, like street food, and you can get some infections in the stomach. So that's what Krishna is mentioning: distress, misery, and disease. And then last one, talking about food that is prepared 10 hours, 3 hours. Right. So we devotees, again, we focus on offering food to Krishna, and we don't focus so much on the mode at it. Right? So we don't worry, oh, goodness, passion, or did I make it? No, we are offering it to Krishna with our best of our capacity. Okay. Right. Sometimes, devotees, they have to travel, and they cook food and they take the food with them. So that's not tamasic. So we should not compare prasadam with these guidelines. That if a prasadam was made yesterday, and if I eat it today, is it now putrid? Is it now mode of it? We have to ensure spiritual principles should get higher priority than material principles. The spiritual principle is food to be offered to Krishna. Food doesn't look good or feel good to the senses, that's okay. But as long as it's prasadam, it'll have a purifying effect on us. So now Prabhupada here, he talks about all the three of them in this purport, right? He talks of foods that are in the mode of goodness. He's talking about milk product, sugar, rice, wheat, fruits, and vegetable. Right, and so, yeah, okay. And then he highlights that fatty food, as mentioned in the 8th verse, have no connection with animal fat obtained by slaughter. So he's not. So when somebody might say, "Oh, talking about fatty food, that means we can eat meat." No. The fatty food that's being talked about is milk, the form milk, butter, cheese, and so forth. So sometimes people say that scriptures are asking us to kill animals, and they use that as an excuse. But Prabhupada clarifies that that's not the way. And then he's talking about food in the mode of passion, right? And then and then he uses one word I remember. Yeah, antiseptic. Saying that therefore, to make food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable, it should be offered food to the Supreme Personality of God. Antiseptic is a very good word Prabhupada uses. And this word comes from a verse in the Ishupnishad. It says, Saprayaga Shukram Akayam Avarnam Ashnaviram Shuddham Apapavitham. Vir Manishi Paridhu Swayambhu Ithadadev Vidrash Yashvitabhya Samabhya. So the word Shuddham, Prabhupada translates that word Shuddham as antiseptic. So, so Krishna is antiseptic. He's antiseptic and prophylactic. What it means is that antiseptic means that whatever disease we have, he fixes that, and prophylactic, he doesn't let us fall into any disease further. So that's the quality of food that Prabhupada is highlighting here. Okay. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is an episode where Mahaprabhu brings Jagannath Prasadam for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya just waken up out of sleep, from his sleep, and as soon as Mahaprabhu gives him prasadam, he eats that prasadam. And somebody might say, oh my God, he didn't take a shower, he didn't clean himself, and he just ate. No. For prasadam, these things don't, the material principles are not important. The spiritual principles take priority over them. So that's something to understand here. So Prabhupada is talking about slaughterhouse here. So somebody might, as I was saying, somebody might say that slaughter was happening in the past also. But then to understand, as Prabhupada tells us, that it was not an organized slaughtering. Okay? And the animals were not brutalized the way they are today. Yeah, there might be some slaughtering happening. I'm not completely saying no. But today there is a whole industry over it. There are, chickens who are kept in a very constricted space, and in agony they peck and bite each other, and their beaks are ripped apart. And there's so much, just heinous crimes going on in so ghastly crimes that people are doing. So we're completely inhuman. So that's why Prabhupada brings out that concept of slaughtering here. Right? Where was that? Slaughter is the way of subhumans, right? Because it's very inhuman. Okay, so this is where we will stop. We have done up to all the food, and now Krishna will talk about 3 kinds of sacrifice, austerity, charity. That will come up.